When an R&B legend walks into a Manhattan courtroom holding secrets that could put a billionaire behind bars, the entire music industry holds its breath. Al B., sure, the New Jack crooner who once serenaded the world with Night and Day, has just confirmed that a federal subpoena will place him on the witness stand in Sean Diddy Combs' sex trafficking trial. He says he's ready to name names, cite dates, and reopen a string of unsolved tragedies, from Kim Porter's mysterious last night to his own 2-month coma. Buckle up. By the time this testimony ends, an empire might burn. Al B. Sure told iHeartRadio on May 12th that he was absolutely prepared to testify after being served. For 3 decades, he's refused big payoffs to stay silent, and, unlike other insiders, he's never changed his story. His claim is simple. Porter feared for her life, warned him to watch your back, and hinted that Diddy's wealth was built on darker currency. Today, that warning echoes louder than ever. And the next voice you'll hear from the stand could finally tip the scales. But the fuse was lit long before court papers started flying. Before Kim Porter was Diddy's muse, she was Al's wife in everything but paperwork, Quincy's mom, inspiration for Forever My Lady, and the confidant who allegedly whispered, "If anything happens to me, promise you'll tell the truth." When Porter left Al for Combs, tabloids framed it as a glow-up romance. Al says it was a trade-off, love for protection. That heartbreak became the first crack in a friendship that would one day be weaponized on the witness stand. And then, in November 2018, tragedy struck. The official autopsy lists lobar pneumonia as cause of death, yet Porter's relatives never bought it. Multiple media leaks describe blood on pillowcases, a faint trail leading from the bathroom, and a body that looked posed on the bed. The coroner who first examined her reportedly flagged toxin levels inconsistent with pneumonia alone. No second autopsy was ordered. To Al, that silence sounded like a cover-up, and he's repeated the charge on every mic he's given. But the timeline hit an even bigger gap. Porter's final phone record shows a 911 dial at 2:43 a.m. The body wasn't discovered until after 11. What happened in those missing hours? Internet sleuths say neighbors reported heavy vehicle traffic around Porter's Toluca Lake home. Journalists later learned Diddy's all-black Gulfstream jet had its public flight data scrubbed that same week, a tactic his team has used before when his location could raise questions. Porter never published her memoir, but she left breadcrumbs. 7 months ago, Amazon yanked a so-called memoir, Kim's Lost Words, after Porter's children called it fabricated. Yet the idea of a book was no hoax. Friends confirmed she'd been drafting chapters on abuse, secret surveillance, and Diddy's alleged liaisons. Heavy D, Andre Harrell, and Porter herself were all reportedly working on tell-alls when death or heart failure struck. Coincidence? Al thinks not, and jurors may soon see unpublished pages as exhibits. Porter was gone, but Al nearly followed. Autumn 2022. Al collapses, organs shutting down, a ventilator takes over. Doctors called it a medical tsunami. He calls it a warning shot. When he woke, he announced a memoir, Do You Believe Me Now?, scheduled for release September 9th, 2025, promising hospital logs, FBI emails, and the name of the person he believes ordered the hit that almost offed him. The working subtitle, Receipts the World Ignored. Al wasn't the first Uptown veteran to flirt with a coffin. Heavy D's sudden pulmonary embolism in 2011 was linked to an overseas flight, but friends recall him joking about cleaning house before his memoir dropped. Andre Harrell, Diddy's mentor, died of heart failure in 2020 while prepping a retrospective on Uptown Records. Each death chipped away at the circle of insiders who could challenge Diddy's narrative. With Al alive, the pattern finally has a living data point, and prosecutors know it. Now, that pattern is evidence in open court. The government has charged Combs with racketeering, sex trafficking, and transporting minors for prostitution. Cassie Ventura wrapped 4 days of brutal testimony describing freak-offs, forced drug binges, and a 2018 assault that broke something inside me. Singer Dawn. Richard backed her story, telling jurors she saw Combs swing a skillet of eggs at Cassie. Homeland Security agent Yasin Binda displayed seized ketamine, MDMA, and bags of baby oil. If convicted, Combs faces life. But prosecutors still need a witness who lived through the first act. Expect revelations on a bounty allegedly placed on his head, Porter's frantic phone calls, and flight tracking receipts that vanish after FOIA requests. Defense lawyers will paint him as a scorned ex. The prosecution will frame him as the last survivor of a vanished circle. Either way, his appearance could corroborate Cassie's timeline and resurrect Porter's unanswered 911. One sworn sentence about that night could swing the jury. And the industry is bracing. Since the indictment, streaming playlists quietly downranked bad boy classics. Brands that once lined up for Karak ad buys now refer calls to legal. Forbes reports Combs sold half of Bad Boy's catalog to Warner Music just weeks before trial, a move analysts call defensive liquidity. Meanwhile, Tupac's estate is reportedly consulting wrongful death attorneys after fresh forensic claims in the making of a Bad Boy doc. Yet major labels keep their lips sealed. Why haven't Clive Davis, L.A. Reid, or Lucian Grange issued statements? Because a dozen catalogs, worth billions, could be tainted if jurors label Combs a trafficker. Every executive has NDAs older than some artists on Spotify. Lawyers quietly warn staff, say nothing, share nothing, like nothing. But that hush carries risk. TikTok's map of who followed who is already turning likes into evidence. While execs whisper, the internet is archiving everything. Fans screen cap each of Al's disappearing IG reels, like last week's clip where he says Porter was drafting a diary and that he'll call Homeland Security when the truth drops. Reddit threads cross-reference those posts with timeline inconsistencies in Diddy's travel. Flight tracking hobbyists note that Combs' Gulfstream Vive vanished from public apps days before both the 2024 bi-coastal raids and Porter's death anniversary, sparking FOIA fights over blocked FAA tail numbers. Meanwhile, behind courtroom doors, side deals are percolating. Two former Bad Boy employees, one driver, one executive assistant, are reportedly negotiating federal immunity in exchange for testimony on interstate trafficking routes. Civil suits pile up. Porter's family consults forensic pathologists for a potential wrongful death filing timed to Al's memoir launch. Rumor mill law blogs whisper that prosecutors would consider a mid-trial plea if Combs hands over the servers, encrypted drives believed to store decades of NDAs and digital compromise. One flipped witness could collapse the defense overnight. With calendars circled, the clock is loud. Court resumes June 3rd. Al takes the oath that week unless motions delay. 3 months later, September 9th. Do You Believe Me Now? Hits shelves, promising a companion doc streaming free for safety. If trial drags past Labor Day, jurors could be reading the book in real time. Publishers smell the next Spare. Diddy's lawyers smell jury tampering. Viewers smell blood in the water. Which brings us to the question only you can answer. Porter's unexplained 8 hours, Al's coma flashbacks, and flight logs wiped from the internet. 3 mysteries, 1 courtroom, 0 do-overs. When the lights dim, which story survives? Diddy's empire or Al B? Sure, it's truth. Drop your prediction below before the next witness is sworn in.